This is meant to be a tier list for low and mid elo in guiding your climb to getting to masters and above. Overall though, I do want to stress that it's most important that you play champions that you like and enjoy. So that's the most important part about playing, you know, a video game that you want to play.
Doesn't get better than this.
So this is like inspired from a video that Alois did, which was like the best champions to climb on in season 13. And I'll make it pretty similar, but for ADC. And this will be for everything below master, I would say. The reason why I think the meta is a bit different in challenger and grandmaster. And I think most of my viewers are not challenger players. So having it like this makes more sense. This is meant to be not too patch specific. I have made a lot of patch specific tier lists, but I want this one to kind of be a general guideline on what champs are good when, why you should play certain champs. Let's start with Aphelios. Now, Aphelios is a champion that I like a lot. Yeah, I should move my camera. Maybe I should have my camera like right here. Something like this is good. I like Aphelios a lot, but the champ is pretty bad for solo queue. He has a very low win rate. He has one of the lowest win rates in the game on ADC, and he's been consistently one of the lowest win rate ADCs in the game. He has a lot of upside. I think he has a very high skill ceiling. I think he's very fun to play. He has great scaling, and I think will be back in the meta. I think right now he's a tough champ to pull off in solo queue, but this is one of Riot's, I think one of Riot's golden boys, so I think they will buff him and make him more decent. But for now, I would probably put him in either B or C tier. For my love for Aphelios, I'll put him in B tier. But he's definitely not a champion that I would recommend to pick up unless you're already familiar with him. I think he could also go into one trick tier. I'm not fully sure about B or one trick tier. Let's check actually what's the one trick win rate. One trick win rate is 55. Okay, let's leave Aphelios in one trick tier. I think if you put a lot of games into Aphelios, then he can be a really good champ. He has a lot of intricacies with the guns. You need to know the weapon rotation very well, and you need to play very well around it. And if you do, I do have an Aphelios guide, but I do go over the Aphelios weapon rotation in that one. I will be making a new one. Caitlyn, I would put her in A tier. I think she gives you pretty good results. I think she's a pretty good like ADC to kind of learn the role. You do need to figure out the traps, but she's one of the champions that I think makes you understand how to space well in lane, because you need to abuse her range advantage and you need to be good at like just playing with the advantage in range that you have, right? If the enemy has Xayah or if the enemy has Vayne, then the way that you win on Caitlyn is most of the time being able to auto-attack them when they're not auto-attacking you. I think overall she's solid right now. I think most of the time you want to be going like collector into AE, into LDR. I think that's my favorite build. You can still go lethality with the like Yumu collector LDR build that I was going before, but Yumu got nerfed and Caitlyn like lethality got nerfed while her crit got a little bit buffed. I prefer crit. I also didn't mention Aphelios builds. I think just like Kraken or Storm is your first item, or collector if they're squishy, and then you go IE or Gale first if you need it, and then usually BT or LDR third if you need lifesteal or armor pen. So Draven, one trick tier, of course. I used to be a Draven one trick. I love this champ. He is very difficult to play, has an insanely high skill ceiling. You need to play very aggressive. You need to get a good lane lead, and you need to be very good at snowballing the lead that you're getting from the laning phase. You need to get really good at making catching the axes muscle memory, and you need to you don't need to have a very high IQ to play Draven, to be frank. You know, most of the Draven players are not the smartest, but you need to be very aggressive and you need to like know the champion's limits very well. Because the difference between a really good Draven is that he knows the limits better than the enemy does, so he can make like the montage play happen. While a bad Draven, he just dies, you know, and he looks like a pig. So I think Draven, he's a really good champ to one trick. He's always pretty much been good. Like if you look at Draven win rate, let's just have a look, right? This champion, let's just do like gold, like platinum plus. If we look for the past like 30 days, 50% win rate. That's like fine, right? Patch 13.15, 50%. Patch 13.11. 51%, patch 1310, you know, 51%. So we're looking at a champ that pretty much throughout his whole existence has only had a few months where he's been really bad. And I think one of the biggest things that you want to look for if you want to one-trick a champ is a champion that isn't swayed too much by the meta, you know? A champion that Riot's not gonna like perma nerf or buff. You don't want to be playing a different champ every patch, you know? I think Draven's a really good one-trick champ. Right now, I prefer going collector into Trinity Force into BT. That build is just really solid. It gives you tankiness. I think Trinity Force is a really OP item. I think you can also go the like Yumus build with collector Yumus Essence Reaver.
Jackspektra superstar.
You can also go the Collector IE. There's a few options. I prefer the Collector Triforce build. You either, like, usually you go Dirk into Triforce into Collector, but it also depends on your item spikes. Like, sometimes you can go Dirk into, Dirk into Collector into Triforce straight. Ezreal. Ooh, is he one-trick? Is he also one-trick here? I think you don't have to one-trick Ezreal. I don't think you have to one-trick Ezreal. I think Ezreal is just, like, a solid champ for solo queue. Right now, I think he's quite strong. Do I put him S or A, though? But guys, you could say that you need to one-trick every champ. But I don't think you need to one-trick Ezreal. I don't think you need to one-trick Ezreal. I think you need a considerable amount of games to play Ezreal. I don't think you need to one-trick Ezreal. I think S tier, he has so many good matchups. So many, like fine matchups. He doesn't really have that many, like, hard stomping matchups. But he's, like, usually always going to be fine in the game. Which I think is a really good trait for a champion. That you can kind of pick him whenever, and he's always going to be okay. And Ezreal provides so much range. He provides so much safety. But you can also play him really aggressively. I think he has a really high skill ceiling. It's all about hitting skill shots after all. And I think he's a really fun champ to play. I think most of the time now you're just going to be going like Triforce into Manamune into Serilda in like every game. That's kind of what I see most of the time. And I think just like Triforce, as I said earlier with Draven, I think that Triforce is just still kind of an OP item. So yeah, I think Ezreal is S tier. Really solid champ overall. Also does have some build options. You can definitely try like cook a little bit with the Ezreal builds, but I think just Triforce is pretty strong. Ashe. I think Ashe goes into A tier. She has a really good early laning phase. She has good utility. She has a good global stun. She has good vision. But I think for me personally, she doesn't really fulfill the fantasy of playing ADC. I think for some people, she's gonna be the perfect champ that really like the kiting and the movement from Ashe. And for some people, she's not gonna be exactly that because she's kind of low damage compared to other hyper carries. But I do think she's a good champion for learning the role. I think she's been kind of like decent for a long time. I think she's pretty underrated right now. Her win rate is pretty good. Not 13-10, 7 days, right? You can see she's 52% win rate. Maybe we can do 14 days. 52% win rate. She's ranked 4 out of 37 on Lolytics, and I think she provides a lot. I think she's also really good with Triforce. Just Triforce is OP, guys. Triforce is OP. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Triforce is OP. I would go Kraken into Triforce on Ashe pretty much every game. Some people are cooking with the Rage Blade, but as far as I know, Rage Blade doesn't even work on Ashe anymore. But I think Ashe is really, like, if people ask me, like, what are the best ADCs to start learning ADC, I would recommend Ashe. I would recommend Jinx. Those two champs, I think, like, pair up pretty well and just, like, learning the how to space as ADC and how to, like, position in team fights, I think is really good. Jhin. I think Jhin is another A for me. I think this champion is like very, very underrated by the community. I think people say this champion is really bad when it's really not bad. I think it's, for me, it's like right now, if I have a range support, I pick Jhin always, nearly. Like, I think Jhin or Caitlyn, those are like my go-to if I have a range support. He has really high damage. There's one thing that he struggles into, but I don't think it's, people aren't playing tanks. That's what he struggles into. He struggles into tanks. But for me personally, if I look at my last 20 games, let's have a look at my last 20 games. How many tanks are we truly seeing? I think the only tank that's actually being played a lot right now is K'Sante. Other than that, like, if we look at the games here, okay, here's a K'Sante and a Poppy. Okay, Poppy, K'Sante, no tank. Ornn, pretty rare. Volibear, Malphite, Volibear. Okay, this game of Darius. Okay, this game they were tanky as fuck. Garen, Ornn. This game they were kind of tanky. But I think if they don't have any tanks, then Jhin is a top tier ADC that provides a lot of utility, a lot of damage, and he's also had a consistent, very high win rate for a very long time, similar to Draven, that I think he's had, like, he's a champ that you can play for many patches, and he's always going to be decent. He's a champion that I would recommend. The only thing that is kind of a downside to playing Jhin is that he's very different from other ADCs. And that's both a positive and a negative. It's a negative in the sense that playing Jhin, I think it'll help you land skill shots, so that's useful. But it's a very different play pattern to a lot of other ADCs, and I think that's also why a lot of people think that he's weaker than he is. So that can make it harder to learn other champs if you want to transition into that. But I do think for me, I love playing Jhin. He's really fun. I think he's like one of the best design champions in the game, both like art-wise and design-wise and gameplay-wise, just like really fun to play. The only thing that sucks with Jhin, and bro, if they fix this, I could play Jhin every game, bro. Make it bearable to last it under tower. How do you last it under tower early game with this champion? It's impossible, bro. Your autos don't do enough damage. You can never get 2 autos. Your support will never help you last it, let's be real. And if you Q the minion, then it'll bounce onto all the other minions and ruin it. So that's the tough one. I think on Jhin, build-wise, I think the Stormracer into IE, into either Rapid Fire or LDR if they're tanky, is really solid. I don't really go lethality too much on Jhin anymore. I think if they're really squishy, then you can go Dark Harvest instead of Fleet Footwork with the Stormracer. And you can go like Yumu's Collector LDR. And that can be a really good build. But for me, I prefer going the crit build and playing more around auto attacks. Jinx, I think, maybe lands up in the S tier. I think she's kind of a better learning champ to play ADC than than Ashe. She has maybe the best scaling in the game. She has a decent laning phase where she can always clear waves due to her rockets, so she can get push in a lot of lanes. She teaches you good fundamentals about ADC, good positioning, good spacing, and she's just an overall solid pick that I think will serve you good in most games. I think especially in lower elos where game time is longer, playing more scaling champions is better. With Jinx, the only thing that you really need to know is just like farm well. If you farm well on Jinx and you play team fights well, you play your traps well, you don't run into them and die, then you're gonna do well, I think, on this champ. Kraken if they're tanky, and Stormracer if they're not. Lethal tempo pretty much every game. I'd say don't go fleet, just go lethal tempo every game. And then you go IE if you don't need the dash, and you go Gale Force if you need the dash. And then third item, you go the Zeal item that you think is best for the game, like PD if they're kind of melee, Hurricane if they're kind of clumping up, and Rapid Fire if you feel like you need the range. That's how I decide the Zeal item I go. But yeah, Jinx, solid pick, put her in S tier. Kai'Sa, A or S? Maybe even Jinx is C tier. I think maybe I want to put Jinx in Z tier. I don't think Kai'Sa is C tier. I think Kai'Sa is S, and I think Jinx is Z tier. Okay, so Kai'Sa, she can build whatever she wants. She can build AD, she can build AP. You can play her like a long-range poke artillery mage, or you can play her like a low-range assassin. Kai'Sa's win rate in solo queue is not the best. Kai'Sa is a champ. I mean, right now, Kai'Sa is not the best. But I think Kai'Sa is another wonder child, right? That they will always buff her, but I do think she's pretty hard. I think I want to put her S tier and Jinx is Z tier. I think I want to do it like this. I think Jinx is easier to play and gives you more rewards, while Kai'Sa has a higher skill ceiling, but I wouldn't be surprised if Riot ends up buffing Kai'Sa and we end up with Kai'Sa being really good again. Because Riot always likes to buff Kai'Sa, I think Riot just likes Kai'Sa, and for good reason. Most of the player base likes Kai'Sa a lot too, and she's a very fun to play champ. You can go, the two builds that I go the most is Kraken Navori for ADC, like if I want to play her like an 80 damage carry, then I go Kraken Navori into usually PD, or Witsend if I need an MR. And if I go AP, then I go Stormracer into Rageblade, into Nashor's Tooth, into Rabadon or Sonya's, if I need a more defensive option for item. I think both builds are really good. The reason why Stormracer Rageblade makes a lot of sense is because you get Q Evolve just from Stormracer and Pickaxe, which allows you to still be strong in the early game, even when you're going AP Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa, definitely a really solid pick. Ended up changing Jinx to Z tier. I think Kai'Sa lands along Ezreal in S tier. Definitely one of the best champions, I think, to play. And one of the most fun champs, I think. Which I think is a big factor to consider whenever you want to play champions. Is like, how fun are they to you? Because if they're more fun, then you will be learning faster. You will be playing better because you're learning faster and you're enjoying it more. And you'll be more inclined to play more of the game that you enjoy. And the game will be more enjoyable, and probably the reason why you're playing is because it's fun, right? So what I want anybody that is watching this, if you see Jinx in Z tier, but you hate playing Jinx, don't go play Jinx, bro. Don't go play Jinx. Play what you like playing. This is just a guideline that you can work from. The best champion for you will always be the champ that is the most fun for you. Because at the end of the day, it's about having fun, right? It should be, at least. If you play the champs that you find more fun, then you'll find more success with it and you'll do better. So now we have Kalista. Kalista, I would definitely put into one trick tier. This champion, I think, is insanely difficult. So fucking difficult. Even for me, as a pro player, my Kalista right now is rusty. And when I play Kalista right now, I can feel that it's fucking rusty and it's hard for me to carry.
Less than 3.
I think this champion, you need to have like at least 100 games. At least 100 games before you start, like, you know, scratching the surface of this champ. I think it's so fucking hard. I think it's like, I'd say it's like as hard, like Ezreal I think is harder, but the difference is that to get like 100% of the results on Ezreal that you can get, I think it's harder. But to get 90% of the results that you can get on Kalista, it's harder. So the last 10% between Kalista and Ezreal is like harder for the Ezreal, like landing every skill shot, playing perfectly. But to get like any value out of Kalista, you need to be really, really good on her to actually snowball games and be able to take over games. Like if you're going to play Kalista, I think Bork into Rageblade right now is the build that I've found the best. I think I tried to go Rageblade first, but it felt really bad because the item path of Rageblade is just dog shit, right? You're sitting, like imagine you're playing an early game lane bully and you're buying an amplifying tome, bro. Amp tome in my inventory and I'm gonna bully the lane. So I think Kalista really hard, but she does, like the effort on her does pay off, but it takes a lot of time. But if you really enjoy her, I think definitely a good pickup, but you do need to put a lot of time into it to get much value. There's so much intricacies around her E and around her jumps, and everything like needs to be done well to get a good result. Ooh, now we have Kog'Maw. I think Kog'Maw's next, right? Yeah. I'm gonna put Kog'Maw low. I might even put it into don't play. Nah, I don't know about don't play. I think I'm gonna put it C. How many champs would you recommend to have in champ pool? I'd recommend 3 champs. I think it maybe don't play. I mean, I don't know if this counterpick tier is useful because you don't really counterpick ADC that much. I think it's don't play for me. I think probably some guys in the comment section will be like lurking and saying like, oh, Kog'Maw is my favorite ADC, so OP. This champion just feels like he feels old, he feels clunky. Why would I play Kog'Maw over Jinx, you know? Like Jinx is just kind of the better champ, I feel like. They fulfill kind of the same niche. The difference is that Kog'Maw has like mixed damage and like percentage HP, but they're both like long range hyper carries, and Jinx is just way more fun with the passive. Jinx passive, she gets a bunch of move speed and attack speed, and it feels fucking amazing to get a kill. Kog'Maw passive is when you die, you explode. Wow, that's the passive I want on my hyper carry, I think. Let's play like I'm a cutie pie. Let's make full usage of the passive, guys. So yeah, I'd put Kog'Maw in don't play. I just don't think, like, if any low elo player comes to me and they are low or mid elo, like if any viewer comes to me and asks me like what champion would you recommend, it would not be Kog'Maw, bro. It would not be Kog'Maw. If you're already playing Kog'Maw, keep at it, bro. Enjoy it. Let's hope Riot gives you some love. But I think Kog'Maw needs a rework. I think a new passive is in order. Like we need a new passive ASAP. Okay, I'll do mages as well, but I won't say too much about him. It'll just be a bit shorter, okay? Because I don't play that much mages. I think the next is Lucian, right? Okay, let's do Karthus then fast. I think Karthus goes into, for me, goes into one trick tier. I think he's a champ that like is pretty strong and he's been strong for a long time, but you do need a lot of games on him. And he's kind of, for me, he kind of like is a similar, like, I don't know. I've seen so many players that have like this champ pool, you know, Draven, Kalista, Karthus, like this is their champs. Like these are all for me very like one trick champs. You need to really know the limits well of Karthus to play well, and you need to be really good at lining your Qs. And to do that, I think you need a lot of games with Karthus. I think on jungle, Karthus is pretty unskilled, honestly. But on bot lane, I think he's like much harder than on jungle. So if you're going to play Karthus, I would recommend it more like a one-trick champ and a champ that you're willing to invest a lot of time into. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend playing it. There's easier mages to play. Why would you play? If you haven't played much mages and you need to play an AP bot, why would you play Karthus over Ziggs, you know? Like, I think Ziggs does pretty similar. He has a little bit less lane bully, but way better wave clear. But he's so much easier to play. I think on Karthus, most of the time you want to go Liandry's, especially on bot lane, since usually you won't be solo AP on bot lane. If you are solo AP, then Ludens can still be fine. And then second item, I think it'll be kind of situational, like either Shadow Flame, Rabadon, Zhonya's, kind of whatever you need. Lucian on the menu. Oh, Lucian, this is a tough one. I think he's pretty low as well. I have been trying out Lucian more recently, since some people in my chat have been trying to convince me that this champion isn't too bad. I think it's pretty bad. I think it's C tier for me. I think it's C tier. And here's why. I think Lucian is C tier because you need to play very well to get good results. He doesn't have a great laning phase. He doesn't have the best scaling, and he doesn't have an insane mid game. Everything, when I play Lucian, everything feels kind of average. The laning phase feels pretty average. The mid game feels pretty average. And the late game can feel good if they're low range and I can kite. But most of the time, you're not against 5 low range champs. Realistically, right? If they have an Orianna, if they have Caitlyn, if they have a Jinx, later on the game, it's gonna get really hard to play. I think Lucian will get buffed. This is my prediction. Lucian will get buffed. And when he does, I could see him returning to the throne. I think Riot did good by removing Lucian Nami, and I could see them trying to balance Lucian more independently right now. But right now, I wouldn't really recommend playing Lucian. I don't want to put him into don't play though, because I don't think he's that bad. I just think he's kind of average. You're gonna play him and you're gonna get average results. And I think there's other champs that you can play. He is very fun though. For me, he's one of the most fun champs. I think especially without Nami. I think with Nami, that shit was brain dead, bro. That shit was boring as fuck. But without Nami, I feel like he's kind of like a combo character, all about like CDR and perma dashing. And I think that gameplay is so much fun. So for me, personally, I really hope Riot buffs him. The build that I've been running when I played Lucian was SS River into Navori. into like situational third item. If I need lifesteal, then BT. If I need armor pen, then LDR. If I need range, then rapid fire. And that build is a lot of fun because you get so much CDR. Some people say Kraken is better. I think Essence River is better. Just like the build path on Kraken is better, but I think once you complete Essence River, it's a lot better. But yeah, so that's why I think Lucian is C tier. Nilah actually I think fits the counterpick tier. Okay, I skipped MF. I'll go MF after Nilah. So first we do Nilah and then I'll talk about MF. I think Nilah fits counterpick tier well. Either counterpick or I think, okay, so we have a counterpick tier, so might as well use it, right? I think she would also fit the one trick tier, but I think Nilah is a good counterpick. She is a very situational ADC, and I'll tell you what Nilah is good into. Nilah is really good with enchanters, and she's good in free lanes with engage. She's really good into heavy auto-attacking teams where she can get good value out of her W. For example, a good example of a team that she would be really good into is something like Tristana mid and Kai'Sa bot, because now her W has a ton of value. She can even buy like plated steel caps on her has a lot of value too, and she can block a lot of their auto attacks, and she can get full value out of her kit. I think she's really weak into high CC, high range team comps. I think, for example, into champs like Azir, she struggles a lot. Into champions like Maokai, she can struggle. Into champions like Sejuani, into champions like Olaf, into champs like Aatrox, she can be hard to play. Because these champions, they want you to come into them. And if Nilah does that, she doesn't necessarily win. I think she's good into like more mid-low long-range champs where they don't have much mobility to escape her. I think she's good into Aphelios. I think she's good into Kai'Sa. Fine into these champs, but for example, into something like Jinx, I think the laning phase will be fine into Jinx, but once you get to mid game, I think it's really hard for Nilah to be able to match DPS with Jinx, you know? So for me, I like to play Nilah when I have stuff like a Sona blind pick, stuff like a Senna blind pick, because a lot of the time enemy will pick an aggressive bot lane, and I think Nilah is a pretty good neutralizer because she's so safe with her E and W, and it can like help your ADCs, like help your supports survive and also give them more XP so they can scale better. For example, the lanes that I've played is like Sona Nilah into Draven Nautilus. And if you pick anything other than Nilah into Draven Nautilus with Sona, the game is practically open, right? Your support is going to get hooked and they will just die off cooldown. But if you pick Nilah, then when your support gets hooked, you can just W your support, Nautilus doesn't get the root, and everything is kind of fine, you know? I also think she's pretty OP, but she's a very weird champ. Nilah is one of those champs that she feels OP, but weak at the same time when I play her. So for me, it's very strange. One of the champions that I just like can't really figure out if I think it's strong or not, to be honest. But her win rate is pretty high, and if you enjoy her gameplay, it's very different from most other ADCs. I did put her into counterpick, but I think she can play into a lot of things as well, if you are a one-trick of her. MF. I think MF for me goes into B tier, I think. A solid ADC. I think a little bit below A tier champs. I think it can be played as both lethality and as crit. With lethality, you would go like Yumu's Collector LDR, and with crit, you would go like Collector IE LDR. Probably. I mean, it's kind of a similar build. You could also go something like Kraken if you want to like really auto attack if they have a really tanky team. But for me, I think MF is B tier. I think she teaches you decent knowledge about the game. It makes you practice spacing. I think the Q mechanic on minions is pretty interesting. But I do think her kit is kind of strange in a way. Like I feel like the W and Q fit well together, and the E and the ult fit well together, but as a package deal, she's kind of a weird champ. She is decently fun to play. I think she doesn't have the highest skill ceiling in the game. I think it's mostly about finding good ult angles and good Q angles in lane. She does feel a little bit outdated, I think, and she doesn't give the same payoff or reward, I feel like, as other champions do, and I think she's a bit harder to like 1v9 carry games on than other champs, while also not like providing much more utility than something like Ashe or Jhin. And I think she needs a lot of things to be strong. If she has a good team to set up her ulti, then she can be really good. But like if we need a lot of things to pick a champ, then the champ is probably not that good, right? For example, if you were to pick Jinx, I don't think you need much from your team. You just need like 4 humans, but that can be difficult too, but it's another topic. And then Samira here. I think Samira for me, I don't know for me if Samira is one trick tier. I think Samira is probably A tier for me, maybe B tier. I think Samira's, to be honest, has been weak for a while now. She's been weak for a year, I think. So maybe B tier. So the pros and cons of playing Samira. The best part about playing Samira is that if you can snowball, I think this champion snowballs the hardest out of any ADC in the game. This champion, if you get a small lead, I really think she's like the Katarina of ADCs, right? If you get a small lead, you can just 1v9 a game like no other champion can. The problem is, when you have a champion that relies on snowballing, that kind of loses every lane. That's kind of how I'd sum up Samira, you know? You have a champion that needs to get ahead, and if she gets ahead, she'll take over the game, but she is weaker than most other ADCs. Yeah, I think Samira's snowball's harder than Draven, to be honest. I think Draven is like the second. I think Samira's the hardest, then Draven is the second, and then maybe Kaisa is the third. And then maybe Jinx is the fourth or something like that with her get excited mechanic. I think Samira has pretty high skill ceiling. You can dodge skill shots with her E, you can wind wall a lot of projectiles, and understanding like your damage limits and how you can get resets is like the most difficult part about playing her. But I think she doesn't offer the same reward as like the champs in one tricks here do, because I think she's a lot more team reliant. When I play Samira, I feel like if I knew who my support was, if I knew it was like a good rel, for example, I feel comfortable playing Samira. But if I'm playing with a really bad rel, then I feel like the game is kind of out of my hands, because this champion, you can't just like outplay them 1v2. You need a good setup and a good teamwork from your team to be able to really snowball and get ahead. I think you need your team to play for you to get ahead, while many of these other champs that need to get ahead, like Draven, Kalista, can generate that lead a lot more on their own. And that's for me is why I'm putting her B tier. I think the best build on Samira is going like Collector into IE into Shield Bow pretty much every game. I think it's going stuff like Duskblade is just bait, it's not worth. And going like Humans is bad too. And Collector is just like a solid first item on her. Like you would go like Dirk into BF Sword into Collector into IE, something like that. And she's a really fun champ. I wouldn't be surprised if Riot buffs her more. She did get a small buff, but I think she could use a little more of a love tap, because she's a very fun champ to play. She's kind of the Katarinas of ADC, so I like her a lot. Senna. Okay, so if we're talking fasting Senna, she's definitely up here, right? But we're talking about, I don't know how to put, I can't put this in a tier, but if you're playing duo Q with your support, very good champ. I would love to play duo Q with a guy that can play some Tahm Kench, he can play some Seraphine, he can play some Set if it's needed, you know, he can play some like cool champs. But the reality is, I don't know how many people play duo Q. And if you play solo Q, I'd recommend not playing this champion. I'm not gonna make a duo Q tier. I think this champion, I mean, actually, I think farming Senna is not that bad. I think it's better than... I played some farming Senna in Korea and it didn't feel that bad. Let's see the win rate. Let's check the win rate and let's work from that. Platinum Plus is fine. 14 days. Yeah, the win rate is terrible. And the pick rate is terrible. Okay, we can put it in don't play. Sure, don't play. I think, yeah, playing farming Senna, they want her to be fasting right now. A lot of people are enjoying her support. She's one of the most annoying supports to play with, in my opinion, because you have to pick a weird champ. If you pick a normal ADC, usually the laning phase is going to be pretty hard. If you are playing Senna ADC, I think probably the best build is going like Stormracer into IE, but I wouldn't really recommend playing it unless you have a duo partner that is willing to play something like Tahm Kench, willing to play like something like Yasuo botlane, Nilah botlane, you know, willing to play some like weird champs that fit well with Senna's kit. And if you have that, then she can be a really fun champ to play. But if you don't, I wouldn't recommend touching her, to be honest. Seraphine, I think for me falls into B tier. I think Seraphine doesn't teach you that much about the game. Personally, it's not really fulfilling the power fantasy of an ADC. It's not that fun. You're just playing a supportive character. I think this is more for people that are autofill bot lane, that are like support mains or mid lane mains. That just want to play a mage. I think she doesn't have that much fighting power. She's mostly just a wave clear bot and a CC bot. And yeah, maybe I'd put her into C, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. I wouldn't say she's one trick tier. I've never met a Seraphine one trick in my whole life. Seraphine is like good at neutralizing lane, but I don't think you're like, if you play Seraphine, okay, I'll put her into B tier because she is kind of strong. To be honest, she's kind of strong. Like, if we look at her win rate on bot lane, she's pretty strong in bot lane, to be honest. But not many people are playing her. And I think there's a reason for that. It's not really what most ADCs want to play, and it's just not what most people are looking for, you know. And I think also she has like some of the like most boring mage gameplay because she doesn't have that sort of like one-shot potential that other champs play, and she's much more supportive than other mages are. So for me, she's B tier. I think if you play her bot lane, typically you'll go Landry's into Rylai's as such, and then you can go more supportive afterwards with either Cosmic Drive, you can go Rabadon, or you can go like full supportive with Staff or Sivir. I think Sivir for me falls into A tier, I think. She is a solid hyper carry. She maybe counterpick tier. She's maybe like, she's an okay blind pick, I guess. I think Sivir is good for like, for me, yeah. So I said earlier, right? If I were to recommend ADCs to new players, I would recommend Ashe and Jinx, right? And I think the third for me would be Sivir, because I think Sivir teaches you well how to play a low range hyper carry and how to like just farm well, have good spacing, and play like a disciplined good game where you can like have high wave clear and then you can carry in team fights after that. For me, she's a pretty boring champ. I don't think she's that fun. I don't think she offers that much compared to other champs. She does have really good damage later on, and she's definitely a solid pick, I think, throughout the years now, after she got her like little rework. And she's decently fun, I think. Her skill ceiling is pretty low, I'd say, definitely on the lower side for ADCs. She's one of those champs that if you pick her and you kind of know what you're doing, you're always going to be relatively useful in the game because you just scale so well and you provide so much utility to your team through your ultimate. And you also have so good wave clear that you can always like stall out games. And then for build, just go Kraken into Nabori pretty much every single game. I think that's what you go every single game. And then for third item, you'd go LDR if you need armor pen, and BT if you need lifesteal, and then fourth like GA or something like that. Tristana. I think we do Tristana. Tristana for me is A tier for sure. She has been like a decent champ now for a long time. She has really good all-in potential. She has good scaling. She's kind of a clunky champ. I think the way her W works is kind of weird, like kind of clunky. You can tell like it's an old ability. I think she has like a good laning phase. She has good snowballing potential, but she also has good scaling. I think she teaches you well like with the buffer mechanic and how to be able to like play around skill shots. And I think she also teaches you well like how to all-in laning phase and how to play all-in lanes. I definitely think Tristana is better than Samira. I think she has higher kill threat. I think they're kind of similar champs, but Tristana just have way more all-in threat. And Tristana can more start the fight on her own, while Samira really needs her support to go in. I do think Tristana is a little bit better on mid lane than bot lane, but I think especially for lower elo, the biggest weakness of Tristana is her early game range, because as you guys know, Tristana's range scales with levels, and early game she has a very little range in bot lane. But I think in lower elos, that will not really get punished. So then you just have an all-around solid pick that scales well, that has good kill threat. And yeah, she's a really like fun champ to play. I would recommend going Kraken into Navori, into either LDR or BT or PD, depending on if you need lifesteal, attack speed, or armor pen. And then for runes, lethal tempo. Varus, for me, I think for me he falls into B tier. I think he's kind of a champ that's always like solid, but he has his metas where he's definitely up here. But right now, I'd say he's kind of in B tier. I think he has a good laning phase. He has decent scaling. The only thing is that I think he's a little bit team reliant, and he doesn't, like, he needs a team to peel well for him because he has pretty weak self peel with little mobility. And he mostly just provides raw damage. But if your team is not good at protecting you, then it can be difficult. I think one of Varus's greatest strengths right now is his versatility in builds. You can go attack speed with Rage Blade, you can go lethality with Yumus, and you can go AP still with like Nashor's Tooth. I think Static Shiv into Nashor's Tooth, into Riftmaker, into Rabadon. It's still a viable build, but I think most of the time attack speed is the best build on Varus. I think Varus is similar to Ashe, but a little bit weaker, but with better scaling. So I want to put Varus here. He's very close to A tier, but for me, I think he's B tier. I think he's also a little bit harder than Ashe. You need to be good at playing around his CD refunds on his spells. And if you do that, you can get really high DPS. But I do think he's a little bit more challenging to play while also not providing that much more of a reward. And also he has centered around hitting a lot of skill shots, and that is also pretty difficult. And I don't think he offers that much more of a reward than the champions that are a higher tier than him. Which I think for me is probably A tier. A tier or S tier? He is really good in solo queue, but nah, not S tier, not S tier, not S tier. I think A tier. I think he is always going to be a good solo queue champ, no matter what. Maybe I'd even put him into one trick tier, but I think Twitch skill ceiling is a little bit fake. I think people think Twitch is a really hard champ, but I don't think he's that hard. I think it's mostly just understanding the stealth mechanic. But I don't think you truly need to one-trick this champion to get a lot of value out of it. Like, it's worth playing him. He does have a high skill ceiling, but I don't think he can match something like Draven, Kalista, Karthus, Aphelios for me. I do think he has kind of this one-trick background, because like Rat IRL and a lot of Twitch one-tricks exist. But I think he also has this kind of one-trick vibe to him because he's never been like the best ADC on the patch. But he's always been like a good ADC, I think. I think in lower elo, you'll always be able to get kills with stealth if you play well around the stealth. And then you can snowball from there on out, and you need to be good at spacing in fights. And you can also play in both AD and AP, which I think is a big bonus as well. The gameplay is a little bit different depending on which style you play, but both of them like translates decently well into playing the other, so I think he's definitely up there as a good champ to play in solo queue, and I think he's pretty fun and has like a bit of a different vibe to him than other ADCs have with his stealth and how he plays around it. Like, he's kind of an assassin hyper carry, which I think the only other one that is kind of similar is Xayah, But Twitch is like an assassin hyper carry with long range, while Kai'Sa is like more mobility and dashes. Just Bork into IE into Hurricane, I think, or Bork into Hurricane into IE, something like that. I've also seen some people do Bork into Titanic into Hurricane, but like the 98 tech build. But I think you just go Bork Rush every game if you're going AD, and then if you're going AP, you're going like Nashor's Tooth into just whatever mythic that you need, to be honest. I've seen Ratarel Gold types of AP mythics, but I think typically Crown is the best. But he does have a lot of build options. You can kind of cook with Twitch, to be honest. He's kind of similar to Kai'Sa, that you can like cook with the builds and AP build whatever you want. You can build a bus. Vayne, I think, is for me S tier. I think this champion, if we look at Vayne's win rate in solo queue in Platinum Plus for a long period of time, you will see that it has always been pretty damn high. She's always been hovering at around like 52-53% win rate, which is really good. I think she has great scaling. I think she has like fine early game fighting wise. She has really good dueling. She does really lack in wave clear. I don't think Vayne is one trick tier. I don't think you need that many games. I think Vayne used to be considered an incredibly hard champ to play, but I think as new champions have been added, as people have gotten better at the game, I think right now it's not an incredibly hard champion to play. I think it's like definitely not easy to play, but she's definitely like, I don't think you need to put in as much time as the other one trick champs to get results on it. And for build wise, I think you just go either Static Shiv or Storm Racer, depending on if you want wave clear or damage. I don't think you typically, I mean, you can go Kraken as well into tanky teams. I guess you can go Bork as well. To be honest, you have a lot of options here. I think all of these are pretty viable. Most of the time, Static Shiv is just going to do your best because you need more wave clear on the champ. And then you're going to go Triforce second item, I think, every game. I think Triforce is just way better than Rageblade. Just way, 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 way better. It's like a tiny bit less damage, but this, like, look at this item. 40, 80, 33% attack speed, 300 health, 220 abilities. And this one's 30, 80, 30 AP, 25%. Like, what the fuck? This is in the same game? Look at these two items, you know? Like, fuck that shit, bro. I'm buying Triforce every time. I think, again, you could make the argument if they're insanely tanky, then Rageblade is better. But that's going to be like 1 out of 100 games that they have like 3 tanks, you know. If they have 3 tanks, go ahead, buy Rageblade, buddy. But I don't think that's going to happen too often. And Trinity Force synergizes well with her Q, while Rageblade synergizes better with her W, but I think Trinity Force is just a better item overall. And I think just Lethal Tempo. Just go Lethal Tempo pretty much every game. This rune is just like the best on her. Like Fleet in really hard lanes, but in those like really hard lanes, it's probably like you shouldn't have picked Vayne, you know. But if you pick Vayne and you're versus like Caitlyn, Senna, sure, go Fleet, buddy. Good luck. Good luck. Nah, I wouldn't go PTA. Just go Lethal Tempo. I think is S tier. He's very similar for me to Kai'Sa. I want to put them right next to each other. They're kind of like the sisters of the bot lane that I think are always pretty good. They're both really high skill ceiling. They're both really fun to play. They were released at similar timings. And they're champs that have always kind of like held their hand, you know, like when people blind pick Kai'Sa, people usually answer Xayah, and now when people blind pick Xayah, people answer Kai'Sa. It's gone all the way around in a full circle. I think Xayah is really fun. I think she has really high skill ceiling. I think she's easy to play, hard to master. She has high DPS, she has good self-peel. She's really good into a lot of the champions that are meta right now, like Nocturne, like Cassante, like any assassin mid laner, any assassin jungler that is being played. Engage support she's really good into, and she's with engage supports. The biggest thing that she struggles into is range. She can be hard to play into like Caitlyn, into Ashe, into Seraphine, into Varus, these types of champs. So sometimes you'll have to rely on her as a counter pick, but I think if you have an engage support, you can typically blind pick Xayah. If you do have a range support though, blind picking Xayah can be a bit more dangerous because you won't have an engage to help you reach them, and Xayah is really weak to range. The best thing, or the biggest upside of playing Xayah into range is that you can rely more on scaling. Even though Xayah is weak into range, I think if you get the 3 items, this champion just hits like a truck, and you can still carry team fights even while being outranged. So if you play discipline and you play well, you can still survive the lane and come out and thrive afterwards. Zeri time. Where do we put Zeri? This champion has had a very roller coaster ride of a release. He was incredibly strong, then very weak, incredibly strong again, and now very weak again. This is a tough one. I think I have to put her B if I'm being honest. But she's such a fun champ with such high carry potential, but she is really nerfed. She's really nerfed. I could put her into one trick tier. She has 45% win rate in gold, bro. 45%, man. That is insanely, bro. Maybe one trick tier. I'm down to put one trick tier. Because I love Zeri, you know? I love Zeri. I don't want to put her B. I don't want to see Zeri B, bro. Like, if I put Zeri B, I'm gonna cry. Just for the boys, I'll put Zeri one trick tier. This champion sucks right now. This champion sucks right now, but it can still be a good hyper carry option if you have a free lane, and it can be good if like you have a support like Bard that just wants to leave lane, and then you just pick Zeri that can just wave clear and be safe. She still has a very high safety in laning phase, and it's pretty easy to farm due to your long range with Q. And for me, I'd say she's like top 3 most fun champs to play in the game. Just her gameplay, her mobility, everything is just so much fun. I really like her. The build that I go every game pretty much that have made Zeri a bit more playable for me is Stormracer into PD into Navori rather than going like Stormracer into Navori. And the reason why this feels really good is because it allows you to have really good wave clear. So you can kind of farm up faster. And also you get your 2 items faster because PD is cheaper than Navori. And also you get the attack speed cap much faster, and if you go Navori second with Stormracer, it's very little attack speed, and you end up feeling like you're just not attacking fast enough. That's the feeling I got. And for me, that build has still granted me decent success on Zeri, but I do have to say that she's a very like slow scaling champion, and she needs a lot of time. You can see, like, I'm still, like, I think I'm pretty good at Zeri, but I have 50% win rate on her right now, you know, like, it's not like I'm not, like, farming elo playing Zeri. Like, these types of games, for example, here I picked Zeri, and the game was over before I got my second item, you know. And in these types of games, Zeri's really gonna struggle. I do think she has a really high skill ceiling, though, and I do think, like, does reward your efforts. If you get really good on her, you can still do really well, and she's a very fun champion to play, and I hope red buffs her. Ziggs and Seraphine, I think, are the most... Ziggs, Seraphine, and Karthus are the most common bot lane mages, so I think we'll just do those. I think that seems fair. For me, I'd say Ziggs lands in A tier. Definitely the best mage to play. Maybe even S tier, honestly. I think maybe S tier. What about Swain and Veigar? I mean, we could do Swain and Veigar. We'll do them fast, okay? Swain, Veigar, Yasuo. Fine, we'll do them fast. Okay, Ziggs... S tier. He's gonna get nerfed. He's getting nerfed. A tier. He's getting nerfed. Right now he's S tier, but he's getting nerfed, so I'm putting him in A tier. He's just probably the best AP bot you can play right now. So if your team is like looking full AD, then Ziggs is really good. He has really good wave clear. You should go Landry's most games. I wouldn't go Ludens unless you're like solo AP, which probably won't be the case. And then second item, like you go either Shadow Flame or Archangels if you need the survivability, and then third item, Rabadon. You mostly just wave clear, get good at hitting skill shots, and you're gonna do well. Swain is an okay mage bot, but he's very niche when he's good. He's really good into low damage team comps. Enemy team has low damage and low range, and he can just like drain them, you know, like just fucking drain their balls. Actually, I'm down to putting counterpick. Yeah. We can put him along with Nilah. Let's put in counterpick. I think if you see the whole enemy comp and you're like last picking ADC, then Swain can be a good option, but it's rare that you get to do that, which is why I think you don't see Swain often. And also he's kind of like a weird champ that not many people play, and I just think like he's not like that strong right now into a lot of these champs, but into some of these champs he's pretty good. I think Jinx in high elo is not, I mean, also Drydar is gonna say Jinx is not that good, I think, because he's an Ezreal one trick, and I think Ezreal is like maybe the best champion into Jinx, to be honest. Like, it's really annoying for Jinx to play into Ezreal Qs because she doesn't have good mobility to dodge the Qs. Okay, so next was Veigar, right? What is Veigar? Let's do counterpick. I think he's also pretty niche. I think into Aphelios he can be good, and Xayah maybe? I don't know. I'm not really sure about Veigar. I think he's pretty weak right now. I haven't really seen him in a long time. To be honest, in bot lane. He does have a fine win rate. I think you typically want to go Everfrost in bot lane. It's Ludens if you're solo AP. Rod of Ages if you really need survivability. I think Rod of Ages is better than Crown, in my opinion. And then you go Rabadon second, I think, every game. And once you get those items, you can be pretty strong. He's still a really good scaling champion. I just think he takes a lot of time to scale, and the game can be too fast-paced to let him scale. Yasuo, I think this will be the last. I think Yasuo for me is... he's one-trick tier. Yeah, Yasuo's one-trick tier. Yasuo, I think, is really strong. Like, if you're really good on Yasuo, I hate playing against Yasuo bots. Like, I think Xayah, and if I'm playing Xayah or Aphelios, I don't mind playing into Yasuo bot. But if I'm playing like Caitlyn, if I'm playing like Jhin, if I'm playing like Ezreal, then it's so fucking annoying to play into Yasuo bot, especially if it's a good one trick. I do think though that this champion is really, really hard, and that you do need to put a lot of time into him. But if you do, I think it's rewarded pretty well, and I think the champion is really strong, and just has a lot of good matchups in bot lane. But I think you need counterpick, ideally. And I think it's really good with Senna. It's good with Senna and it's good with engaged supports. But blind picking it, I think it's not best, but like maybe you pick it and they don't know if it's mid or bot, and then they pick like a bad matchup into themselves, right? I do think though that he's really hard, so you need a lot of time into him, and I would say like you need to one-trick him to really like find good success consistently on Yasuo bot lane. I think that's it. I don't think I'm gonna do more weird mages. Like I could do like Cassian, Syndra, Victor, but I don't really think people are wanting to look at an ADC tier list for those champs. And they're also not champions that I don't have that much experience on. I hope you guys like it. This is meant to be a tier list for low and mid elo in aiming your in guiding your climb to getting to masters and above. And yeah, overall though, I do want to stress that it's most important that you play champions that you like and enjoy, because that's the most important part about playing, you know, a video game that you want to play. And everybody say hello to YouTube, and I'll say goodbye to YouTube. You can watch it in the YouTube video. Bye bye YouTube. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.